I imagine you have felt this pressure. The lights dim, the band kicks in, and then the words hit the screen. I need you. I want you. I'm desperate for you. I'm not suggesting these kind of quote unquote I songs are all bad. I mean, in fact, most are very theologically right on point. But compare that kind of song to the hymns that maybe you grew up singing, or maybe still sing in certain context. Things like "A mighty fortress is our God," "Crown him with many crowns." Do you kind of feel the difference? I think that we should, because it's more than just a style issue. It's actually a discipleship pressure that every pastor and church leader, I believe, needs to consider. So here's the kind of reality right now. And I think you believe this. What we sing shapes what we believe, and what we believe shapes who we become. That means worship isn't a warm up for your sermon, it really is discipleship. But that discipleship pressure is rising because worship has quietly shifted from bold proclamation to a lot more personal intimacy. Hymns used to, and I don't mean to sound like an old person, but hymns, right, used to sound like this. We believe, we sing, we follow. In a really very real way, they rallied the community of faith around truth and around contribution. So much modern worship doesn't feel like that. It feels more like I feel, I need, I want. Jesus, you are for me. It kind of is centered on the individual's personal experience of God and on consuming what we can get from Jesus. Again, intimacy isn't wrong. There's nothing wrong with intimacy. In fact, I mean, an intimate relationship with Jesus is what we all should be longing for. It's beautiful, but when we sing that without the proclamations and the we's and the God you are's, worship really begins to feel incomplete. And in fact, I would argue we might be reinforcing consumerism in our church when our songs are primarily about what God is doing for me in my life. I mean, when intimacy kind of replaces proclamation, discipleship actually starts to lean towards individualism rather than community. Let me give you kind of three reasons that I believe this matters a lot. I've been studying this for a long, long, long time and thinking about it a long time. And I've been going to churches. A lot of you know this. I'm a professional consultant, right? So I coach pastors, consult with churches, lots of strategic planning oriented things, lots of church service evaluations. I'll often preach when I'm on the road working with churches, and so I get to fully experience their service. And as I have been watching over the last several years, this continually pops up. Let me give you three reasons that I think this matters. Here's the first one: individualism. And you're not going to hear these and go, "Oh, I never thought of that." But dig deep for a minute with me. Individualism weakens community. It always does. Like, our culture already tells people faith is private. Like, when we sing me instead of we in a very real way, we are reinforcing that message inside of our church that individualism is that your faith is meant for you. It's meant to be deeply private, but not public, right? We don't talk about it in public. So therefore, it becomes about me, my experience with Jesus, not our experience in building the kingdom. I mean, individualism, as you know, it is a massive problem in our culture. And because of that, because it's in culture, it has certainly seeped into our churches in a very real way, and sometimes in a very subtle way, like in the songs we sing. Here's the second reason it matters. Feelings can, if we're not careful, replace formation. So think about this. Songs that declare kind of who God is, those build a foundation of truth, right? Songs that only express how I feel about Him, well, they can't really hold up to that weight often because feelings are not what builds a foundation, but feelings can accidentally replace the formation of our faith. And here's the third one. Worship, man, I believe this is true. And this is through personal experience for years of this, not just a week, okay? Worship really loses its strength when we focus on the individualistic, the me side of worship. I mean, proclamation emboldens the people of God. I mean, it unites, it strengthens, it sends, right? We songs really bring our collective voice together as the body of Christ. But introspection, again, not bad, but occasionally or as a part of, but when it dominates, when introspection dominates the worship set, it really can shrink God to the size of my emotions and my needs. I mean, think about that. And again, when we're putting our set list together or when we're singing these songs, we're probably not, I mean, I get it, we're not thinking this strategically about it, but we really should be thinking this intentionally about it because the songs we sing shape what we believe, and what we believe shapes who we become. So this isn't like a style war, okay, between hymns and choruses. I mean, I'm not that guy, okay? But it's a discipleship shift. That's subtly, I believe, undermining the mission of a lot of local churches. Because if what gets sung, as I said, gets believed, then what gets believed shapes discipleship. So let me go back for a second and touch on, I think, the most important piece of this. And this is where it gets even a little more critical for us to think deeply, okay? We mentioned individualism already. Individualism dominates culture, right? Every commercial says, you do you, get what you deserve, follow your truth. I mean, marketing is all about you deserve, you should have. The whole world is about you. Think about how we have done that in our, even in our faith journeys. Like, you believe what you believe, as long as it doesn't hurt me, as long as it doesn't hurt others, right? We could be divided, that's okay. We're just gonna keep to ourselves. You do you, boo, right? I'll do me, we'll be fine. I mean, it's no surprise, right, that individualism has seeped into our church culture and especially into our worship culture. And here's the danger. It is very, very subtle, but it is present in most modern worship lyrics. Like, when we mirror culture rather than challenge it, what we do is we risk raising disciples who look more like consumers than followers of Jesus. And you don't need me to tell you that Jesus was very clear about what following looks like. And it was not easy, and it was not about consumption. So here's kind of the tension, right? And you've seen it in your church, I bet. People will say things like, I didn't like worship today. That song didn't speak to me. I wish we'd sing more of what I like. You know what that is, right? That's consumerism. It's consumerism. And unfortunately, a lot of our worship songs have been reinforcing that. If our songs are shaping it, what do we expect is going to happen? If our songs are feeding into that, right? Of course, people are going to respond that way. So what do, right? Do we just throw out modern worship? Well, of course not. I mean, a lot of that modern worship is theologically accurate, but it's just so hyper-focused on the individual that we might need to, and here's the answer, bring some balance to this. The first thing we have to do is recognize that this is actually a shift that has happened. We can't dismiss it as a preference. It's theological formation. I mean, look deeply at the message within each song that you sing on Sunday. And here's what I would ask you to ask yourself. Is this song more consumeristic or more about contributing to the greater we, the greater kingdom? Is it more about what God does for me, or is it more about who God is, right? Is it more about what am I getting from Jesus? If it is, I would consider either removing it from your set list, depending on how strong that message is, or balancing it out with some other things that are the opposite of that. And that's the second thing we have to do. We have to reclaim proclamation in our churches. We need to mix in songs that declare God's greatness, His works, His reign, right? Songs that lift people's eyes to the bigness of God. Another thing we need to do is we need to begin to think about how to restore community. You know, people are longing for community. They always have been, and no one should be able to out-community a local church. But when we choose individualistic songs, consumer-driven songs, we actually are working against community. So choose songs that are written in the plural voice. Teach people that faith is shared, right? It's meant to be public, not private. Deeply personal, but not deeply private. And then last thing, I think we just reframe that intimacy, right? Keep the personal songs. I mean, again, now, if it's theologically bad, don't keep it, but keep some of the I feel, I need songs. That's not a problem by itself, but you've got to root them in the community of the other songs. You really need to let intimacy with God grow from the strength of corporate proclamation, not just from the I need songs. So remember, right? This is not about style. Okay. It'd be easy to hear this and think, well, Gavin just doesn't like modern worship. And that's not true. I actually love it. However, I like discipleship more. And I think being intentional about these discipleship pathways matters more. So let me just give you something, as we always do, that you can do this week. Very simple. I would just ask you to audit your last month of worship sets. I mean, ask yourself, how many songs were written in the first person singular or built around getting something from our relationship with God? I mean, again, remember, just because it has the word I in it doesn't mean that it's not a proclamation song. I mean, there's lots of songs that have the word I in it, but it's not focused on I. It's focused on we and him, not on me. So again, the pronoun isn't the problem as much as the heart behind it. So how many songs had way too much I's and me's in it compared to we's and God's? Or just how many of those songs were kind of centered around getting something out of this relationship with God, as opposed to giving something to this kingdom? Another question, how many declared who God is versus how I feel? I mean, you'll see this in so many hymns, but just declaring the greatness, the glory of God. It's a powerful thing to declare with the words of a song, especially in a corporate setting, right? Last question. How did the church kind of stand together proclaiming our God reigns? Like, how often did your church get to kind of proclaim that as a group? Our God to be glorified, our God reigns, that this is about him, not about me. Like, how often did that even happen in the last month at any point along the way? Like, it's a really critical question. And what you find actually might surprise you, but also maybe show you how your worship is shaping the people in your care. Because again, right, what gets sung gets believed, and what gets believed shapes discipleship. So here's the pressure point, right? I'd love for you to consider. Worship is never just about music, is it? It's about formation. Like when worship shifts from this we to me, the church absorbs more individualism and less community, more feelings but less formation, more consumerism, right? Less proclamation. But if you can rebalance some of that, you can reclaim that proclamation, I think you'll restore more community. And by the way, you'll still keep intimacy. Your worship sets, they are discipling people, whether you realize it or not, right? They really are. So let's make sure that they're discipling people towards bold and resilient and shared faith. Because, right, one day, the church isn't going to gather around your favorite song. We're going to gather around the throne. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to declare as a group, worthy is the Lamb who was slain. And that's worth preparing people for, actually, now.